Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show with your host, Phil Tarrant.
G'day everyone, welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the first show of 2019. I'm pumped, I'm excited. You might have heard of us. We recorded our last session on New Year's Eve. I was getting ready and prepared for a party at my house, which I can happily report was a huge success, and there was a very small hangover the next day, but I was actually feeling pretty good compared to other New Year's in the past. So I think I'm getting old with age and a lot more sensible. I'm obviously getting older with age. I'm getting more sensible with age. I haven't introduced you yet, James, so don't laugh at me. But James Mitchell, he's the editor of the Wealth Products here at Momentum Media. I've asked these guys back in the show. We're working through the break. You might have heard him the show just before New Year's. We're just doing a bit of a recap of the next couple of shows on the big stuff that happened in 2018 to help set us and prepare us for property investment in 2019. James, how you going? How was your New Year's? You've got a new child, haven't you?
I've got a new child, Louis. He's 4 months old. And so, early bedtime for us. But I love it. It's good fun.
Did he? Where do you live now? You live
I live in Normanhurst.
Okay.
I live in Normanhurst.
All right. So you used to live down near the harbour. Would have been waking up with the fireworks and all that.
Yeah,
sort of stuff.
but that time is over.
So best New Year's ever, was it then?
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, we've had a lot of New Year's, obviously looking over the harbour and having a view of the bridge and stuff like that, which is good. But it's nice to have a family and be in the suburbs.
Did you miss it at all? No.
not
Happy?
at all. Happy.
That's good. How about you, Sasha? What did you get up to?
Well, I thought I was going to have a quiet one, but that was the most wild New Year's I've ever had.
You're a crazy man. It's crazy. It's crazy about property as well. Now, Sasha is one of our journos. Sasha Karen is one of the journos on Smart Property Investment. You've probably seen his byline on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au many, many times. So I've asked him back in the studio to join me and James to have a chat about what's been happening in 2018 to set us up for 2019. Just before on New Year's, I think it went out the 31st of December, we recorded it, and that's when it went out. We spoke about market predictions and some of the stuff going on around what we do as journos to help shape the way in which we produce our content. Market predictions being sort of bread and butter stuff for smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We must get a press release every hour, I feel, around what someone thinks about a particular market. And just to recap on that quickly, our sentiments was, be careful where you get your information. We vet the information as much as possible as journos before we take it to press, but you need to understand what the market intent might be of the person who's providing these predictions. For example, if someone's just built 200 units or is trying to sell 200 off-the-plan units in a particular suburb, they might be saying that's a hotspot. They might be predicting that's going to be booming. You need to be able to analyse exactly whether or not that assumption is true and accurate. Spruikers is what they are. So, but not all off-the-plan stuff is done by spruikers. But just know the intent of the person who's giving you information. Our conclusion was there's some very good and very accurate market researchers out there, and organisations like your SQMs with Lou Christopher or Tim Lawless at your Core Logics,
economists.
Property economists who give good information. Bernard Salt, really, really good stuff. So we won't recap that too much right now, but what I wanted to do today, guys, is look at some of the hotspots that were predicted over 2018. And I just wanted to sort of timestamp this because I thought in a year's time, start of 2020, which is scary. Yeah. We'll go back and we'll see how these predictions went. Now, our top podcasts over that period of 2018 around the topic of hotspots. We talk about it a lot in the Smart Property Investment Show and also on the website. But there was three podcasts in particular which were really popular, and I've ranked them, rated them. Number one was How to Pick the Next Up and Coming Suburb, which was done on the 15th of the 1st, 18, which is nearly a year ago now. It's a year ago in a couple of weeks' time. The second was Simon Presley, who's the chief researcher over at Propertyology. We've had him on the show a fair few times. It was Top 10 Tips for Investing in the Current Market, which was released on the 30th of September 2018. And the third most highest downloaded podcast around hotspots was an overview of where to invest right now, 26th of April 2018. So these things are really popular, off the charts in terms of downloads. If you put the word hotspot into an article on Smart Property Investment, Sasha, everyone sort of digests it, right? It's always the highest read stuff, yeah?
Oh yeah, people go nuts for hotspot information.
Why are people so crazy about hotspots?
Well, we kind of touched on this last episode, but as you said, we have an instinctive need of being told something. So they want to be told where's a good investment. So they want to know where that next hotspot is. They want somebody to basically do the research for them, which I'm not a property investment expert. So you definitely need to be listening to the property investment experts that we interview. Having somebody tell you where to specifically invest may not always be the best option. So you need to do your research, do your homework, do your due diligence, get all of that information together, build up all of your information.
So you're saying you can't outsource. Well, there's an argument. We'll have a chat about this. I'm going to say you can't outsource the responsibility for where you invest in property. And I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Right, you completely agree with that. If
you can't outsource the responsibility.
You can't outsource the responsibility. And I was very clear what I said there. You
Yeah.
can't outsource the responsibility on where you invest in property. But you can outsource some of the stuff that needs to be done for you to make a more informed property investment decisions when it comes to hotspots. So when I see a thing coming through, a story that might say, suburb X is set to boom, I'm going to go, well, let me look a little bit more into this.
Yep.
Back to my original point. Is anyone trying to flog someone out there right now? Is my first thing. Who am I listening to? Are they? Do they have a reputation for accuracy when it comes to this sort of stuff? First question. But then I go, all right, well, maybe it is. I'll outsource some of this, and I go, by outsource, I'm going to talk about using a buyer's agent. You know, a lot of stuff that I buy, James, is all through buyer's agents. Most of it, all of it, to be fair. So I outsource. I use the skills and capabilities of experts to do this information for me.
Yep.
But the responsibility for where I invest is still firmly with me.
That's right.
And any advisor that you work with will make sure that's pretty key. That if someone says you should invest here and you just blindly invest in it, that's your responsibility. You've got to take the repercussions.
It's an interesting concept, that whole buyer beware, which is actually something which I've been writing a few in 2018, I was writing quite a few opinion pieces about, because as we saw in the Royal Commission, there was a lot of evidence of, particularly when they did their small business stuff, looking at small businesses, people who had been advised to either buy something or had, decided to go buy a franchise or something like that, and then said, well, it didn't work out. Now it's the bank's fault for giving me the money to set this up. And so I am very much I'm a big person about responsibility. You need to take responsibility for your own actions. If you take financial advice, if you take property advice from someone, it's your responsibility at the end of the day
to act on that advice. And how you act on that advice is your responsibility.
It's your responsibility. And so you can't be trying to offload that responsibility and saying, well, that person said I should buy here and they didn't build the mine and now I'm buggered.
I spent $800,000 on this particular property, and now it's worth $300,000 because some environmental situational thing happened, which means that my investment hasn't realised. And there's been a lot of people that have done that in the past.
Absolutely, in property and also in in wealth, which is an area that I cover, which is, generating returns and building wealth through property. Property is one asset class. You've obviously got, investment funds and stocks and stuff like that, and bonds and other sorts of securities. And it's very, very much the case in that area. Probably not so much in property, but in the wealth space, where people have, gone and seen a financial planner. They said, yep, you should go into this fund or that thing. It doesn't work out. That person loses money. We kind of live in a day and age where that's not really acceptable now. You know what I mean? Things are only meant to go up. If things go down, then someone's got to be to blame. But that's just the nature of markets.
Up and down.
And so I think people need to remember that whenever you're putting your money anywhere, if you're buying anything other than an ice cream. You know what I mean?
The way I see it, it's kind of like hotspot data is kind of like a diving board. So you can go up to the diving board, you can see how high it is, you can see that it's sturdy enough, then you can jump, but then it's your own responsibility to, put your arms and your legs in the right position. Don't go over for a belly flop.
You don't want a belly flop.
I'd be straight into a can opener position. Splashing the punters on the side. That's the way I roll.
You're an expert diver, Phil. You'll be doing a reverse pike.
But it's true. It is your responsibility. Yeah. Hotspots, we trade off it. People absolutely love hotspot stuff, don't they, Sasha? You write about it, they love it, they digest it, they go, oh, really? I still see I think we were very shrewd in how we've evolved smart property investment over the years, where we shifted away from a print magazine.
That's right.
Many years ago to this type of thing, right? Like proper conversations and dialogue, and it's been highly popular, the Smart Property Investment Show. So it's reaffirmed our decision to make that. But I still see people pick up one of these property magazines, and the first thing they do will shift to the back of it and start looking up suburbs data, and even online now, it's front and center on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. So if you're not using this tool, go and do it. You can put in any suburb; it tells you what the data is, but it's not going to tell you what's going on.
Well, I think that's just a natural human instinct. It's the path of least resistance. You know what I mean? It's like, never mind all this market analysis. Just tell me the name of the place I need to buy, and I'll go there.
Go there. Give me the suburb. Give me the hotspot.
That's it.
I'll tell you what. If you're looking at,
I want the golden ticket.
there's a new Willy Wonka coming up, by the way.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, there is. Speaking of golden tickets, but anyway, I'm not going to go to
Random segue.
But we know maybe it could be a metaphor of how do you get. But there's no golden ticket in property. There we go.
Shout out to Walt Disney.
There's a headline for you. There is no golden ticket in property.
No, there's not.
You've got to do the hard yards. You've got to burn the shoe leather. You've got to, going back to advice, you actually need to, number one, trust your advisor, and number two, have an understanding, appreciation that they're giving you good stuff, and number three, they've got a sound track record.
Yeah.
You can use them as filters to work out who you choose as your advisor. Not all advice is created equal.
Yep.
If you don't have to pay for advice, probably not great advice. If you're paying for advice, it's probably advice with your best interest in place. And I say that on the basis of if you have a buyer's agent, inverted comma, who recommends you buy a particular product in a particular development, and they don't charge you for that advice, maybe that advice is not the right advice. It might be okay advice. I'm not going to say that, but it might not be the right advice. So when it comes to hotspots, you've got to have your red flags up. You've got to really understand what you need to be doing to make your own judgment and assessment of a particular hotspot. Anyway, we've loaded that up as much as we can. Sasha, you got some hotspots for us.
Sure do.
Okay, so what we're going to do, you're just going to amalgamate some of the commentary that you've had over 2018 on smartpropertyinvestment.com.au, pulling it out from some of the transcripts from the podcast.
Yep,
so we've got a couple of suburbs here from a number of different people who are involved in property investments. So we're going to pin this back down. It's all documented anyway, so we're just going to
So these hotspots from
2018.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we'll do in a year's time, we'll go back and see how these things are performed.
All right. Let's
so
run
what
through
do you got for us? Let's give us. Let's go through 3 or 4 of them, I reckon.
All right. So this is a bit of an easy one. Badgerys Creek.
Okay.
Right.
So we've got the Western Sydney Airport being under construction. There's going to be a ton of employment related to that coming up. And the New South Wales government, they're also planning to do what they've called an Airtropolis, which is a pretty cool sounding name in my opinion. This idea of a global city, 24-hour run city around the airport, just constantly things to do, employment. They're estimating, I think it was about 200,000 jobs for the whole Airtropolis.
That's huge. Well, I was reading a paper just before Chrissy, and there was a piece in there talking about the train line from St Mary's out to the new Badgerys Creek. There's a new train line going through there. So it's essentially link up this greater Western Sydney
area,
like a huge city. And I sat there and
so we're from like Parramatta to...
Well, I think around that sort of St Mary's, Blacktown, Liverpool, that's really going to be the heartbeat of it. And I sat there and I went, oh, that's pretty cool. I own property in St Mary's and around that particular area, so which we invested in quite a number of years ago. But it goes to show that hotspots sometimes take time to mature. When we bought out that way at that point in time, Badgerys Creek still hadn't been formally gazetted as going to happen. It was still sort of the thing that's been happening for 50 years that no one's really got. So Badgerys Creek hotspot, you know what? I'm not going to disagree with that. It's not my job to confirm or deny, but
makes sense, though, right?
It makes sense because it draws on the basis of property fundamentals which influence markets,
infrastructure.
So infrastructure spending, jobs, job growth, population growth, transport, all these things. All these things go hand in hand
that ticks the box
to put positive pressure on property. And what we're talking about here is increasing capital growth. Obviously, we could do hotspots based on yields of rents, but this conversation is around stuff going up in value, which is what you need as a property investor, by and large. Okay, what else you got for us, Sasha? Who claimed that, by the way?
That was Mr. Doug Driscoll.
Doug Driscoll. We spoke about him on the last podcast from Star Partners. So I think going back to that chat, I remember correctly, I was chatting about some article in Daily Mail or something or other that was claiming all these hotspots, and Badgerys Creek was on that as well. So,
you
okay,
go.
what else we got?
Tying in a little bit to what we were discussing earlier, we were talking about St. Mary. So I'm not saying St. Mary's,
Okay.
but talking about Miller, the suburb of Miller in Sydney.
Okay.
And
Is that a new suburb?
I think so.
Yeah.
But Doug was saying that Miller is today what St. Mary was 2 to 3 years ago.
Okay.
So
Nice.
yeah, that's a
Really?
nice. Yeah,
'Cause there's a bunch of new suburbs out that way, isn't there?
You know what? I'm literally googling it right
Googling
now.
it on your phone.
And I go, yes, I know exactly where that is now. It is. it's
I know Miller's Point.
Miller's Point. It is west of Liverpool.
Yep.
And south of Bonnyrigg, right near Hoxton Park, which is the old aerodrome there. So it's a tiny little suburb, right near Green Valley, Hitchin Brook,
Okay.
Busby, Heckenberg, Ashcroft. I know it well.
Small
Out
suburb?
by Preston. It's not huge. It's not huge, but
Apparently, small suburbs are generally pretty decent. Like, is it Lapston? No,
Lapston. Yeah, I know Lapston.
I remember when Lapston was a hotspot.
Lapston, is that the one out near the mountains?
Yeah,
right?
it's like
Lapston.
in between Emu Plains and Penrith, around there,
Yeah.
just at the foothills of the mountains. I remember that was a hotspot about 5 years ago.
I'm looking at it, and go and do this, guys. I'm on Google Maps right now, and you'll see Miller is literally right on the cusp of essentially the edge of Sydney right now, right? You know, if you go any further west than that, it starts getting semi sort of rural from there, you know, out towards Kemps Creek and Luddenham, which is still semi-rural, Greendale. And if you keep going west, you hit Warragamba to give you some sort of geographic
old dam.
pointers. So, yeah, all right, Miller.
There you go.
Why is that going up? What do they say? Why do they say that will be a hotspot moving forward?
he explained that it was similar to St. Mary's progress, so there's that going for it. But it's the little things, it's the simple things. Like he said it could be simple as the likes of getting a Coles or a Woolworths in. So it's just those core amenities that helps any hotspot really.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Give us another one. Have you got anything outside of Sydney?
While yes, I do. I have something very far outside Sydney. Let's go down south all the way to Hobart.
Okay.
All right.
Still a hotspot, is it?
Still a hotspot.
Still running hot.
Okay. I thought Hobart was pretty much done. Who's claiming hotspot? Who claimed over 2018 that Hobart was a hotspot?
This came from the mouth of Simon Presley.
Simon Presley, yes. Well, he was the
He's been bullish on Hobart.
second highest downloaded podcast for Simon Presley's top tips for investing in the current market. I reckon, though, this might be aged a little bit because I think Simon's been very pro Hobart and Tasmania for a number of years prior to 2018. So if I remember the last conversation I had with him, and Simon, please call in and tell me if I've got this completely wrong, because I don't want to paraphrase you and get it completely wrong. But I think his view to Hobart is that it's had a really, really good run. So whether or not Hobart is a hotspot moving forward, I don't know if Simon's buying down there, but I reckon he would probably still say that it's still got some really good drivers and dynamics to push forward. But prove me wrong, Simon. I might have that wrong, but I think I'm right. So when did he say Hobart? It must have been quite early in the year. I
So
imagine.
this was in April.
April. Okay, pretty early on. And any particular reasons why Hobart worked for him back in 2018?
Well, for him, he was saying that he couldn't see the end of the growth in Hobart.
Okay.
He said it could be coming soon or it could not be coming soon. At that moment, things were looking right up Hobart's way. He thought maybe it could be 2020 when the growth stops there.
Okay.
I mean, I recall in 2017, CoreLogic labeled Hobart as, I believe, the top growing capital city for whole 2017.
I think it has been for 18 as well. I haven't got the numbers in the top of my head, but
no.
I've seen them quite a few times. I think Hobart's done pretty well. Okay, let's
nice
do one
place,
more.
Hobart.
What else you got? What else you got for us, Sasha?
Crazy.
Anything? I'll pull one out of the hat, like most good hotspots should be.
Phil's hotspot.
Phil's hotspot. No,
Out
but
of the hat.
and I say that with a sense of gesture, right? Because a lot of
tongue-in-cheek.
hotspots are just pulled out of the hat. Someone goes, "Wait, here's a hotspot."
That's right. And the word hat can be used interchangeably with something else.
It can be. A lot of my conversations over 2018. Now we're in 2019. A lot of people have been discussing the Brisbane market. over that period of time. And I'm not talking downtown Brisbane. I'm talking some of the sort of belts around Brizzy, the Logan Shire. There's been a lot of optimistic people over 2018 looking at that market who are moving into your sort of suburbs like Logan Home, Springwood, all these type of places. But I reckon most of the conversations I have with people that participate in the business of providing buyer's agent service to people have all sort of indicated that northern sort of belt of Brisbane is pretty good. This area around the new Sunshine Coast University, the new train line that goes all the way out into Kippa-Ring where it terminates, and even a little bit north of that up through Deception Bay. A lot of people have been investing in those areas on the basis of it being a good long-term performer over time. There's a lot of infrastructure going in there, particularly built around the new university campus. A lot of rezoning in those areas as well, which has been very favourable, sort of along that train line. So people who have been able to pick up properties which have just been rezoned, which you can take up to, I can't remember, 20 metres high or something. I don't remember the actual thing is, but people have been heavy in that marketplace. Personally, I've picked up some stuff around there in Callunga, which is just north of the new campus coming in. And
how far is that from like Noosa sort of way?
Oh, it's a bit of a hike. Yeah,
it's
a bit of a hike. Even if you go up further though into what's it called? Maroochydore.
Yeah.
Even if you go up further up in a Maroochydore way, there's a lot of people who've been buying up that way. So, but that belt around the university campus, a lot of people are tipping those areas as good investment fundamentals sort of moving forward. Personally, the Smart Property Investment Show purchased a block of units in Lawton, which is just one stop south of Petrie, which is the key hub for this new university campus. So we'll share with how that goes over time. I think it's been a pretty good buy. I think we got that at the right time. But
nice.
Again, it goes down to hotspots. Hotspots, if people are already talking about hotspots, you've probably already missed it. It's about the talent to this is actually finding that hotspot before anyone else has told you about those hotspots. Hobart, it's been a well-known hotspot for many, many years. Is it still a hotspot? Maybe not. What I've just spoken about then around that north Brisbane, sort of 20, 25 minutes from the city, the fact that so many people are buying in that area, you know what? Is it a hotspot anymore? Probably not. It's the hotspots that no one tells you about are the true hotspots. And often the only way to actually get access to those markets or an understanding of appreciation of where those hotspots are is actually use a buyer's agent. They do this thing for a living every day, just picking through data and all these different moving parts to actually get a really good read on where you should be investing. So it's a tip there. If you're not using buyer's agent, maybe you should start. But if you've got the capability to do all that research yourself, go for it. All right, that's going to be long enough for us for the first episode back in 2019. I hope you enjoyed it. We're a bit all over the joint, but hotspots are. So
that's it. And also, first day back after the new year,
cut us a break.
A few sore heads.
I thought you did. I think we're okay. I've enjoyed the chat though. No, thanks guys. I really appreciate it, Sasha and James. We'll get you on. We'll get you on over the course of 2019 to come on and tell us what you're up to and share your conversations, what you're having with the market. And I think that's the fortunate position we have as journalists is that we're not here to tell you our particular opinion. We're just here to be a bit of a conduit to what other people are saying. And we're lucky that we get to actually get all these different ideas and curate them and sort of package them up in a way which we hope is of value to you. So remember to check out smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We're writing stuff all the way through summer. If you're not yet subscribing to our daily morning newsletter, so the first to know what's happening in property and property investment, smartpropertyinvestment.com.au/subscribe. Alternatively, if you're a social media person, just search Smart Property HQ. Any questions at all about what we're doing or any ideas for 2019 for us, we're happy to include them. Email the team, editor@smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. We'll be back again next time. Till then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.